Turn me on, we might have to adjust the hertz.
On a creek in northern Michigan, a fisheries team from the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians is electrofishing to find out what types of fish are living in these waters. Alex Ontkos is an inland fisheries biologist.
We're doing fish community surveys in support of the Michigan Arctic Grayling Initiative, along with the habitat work that we do to find just the right place to put them. We also look at the fish community because we want them to have good neighbors. We want not too many brown trout. Brook trout are a good thing. They're representative of cold water and probably use similar habitats to Arctic grayling. So if we go out and catch a lot of brook trout, that's a good sign that the water quality is good for the Arctic grayling.
Push them back and forth, just push them.
Electrofishing is a pretty common method for fish community surveys in freshwater environments. Essentially creates electrical field that's almost like a fish stun gun.
Oh, lamprey as well in there?
It temporarily stuns them just long enough to be able to scoop them up with a net. That way we can identify them, count them, measure them, and weigh them, and collect those data for further analysis.
602.
The ultimate goal of the Michigan Arctic Grayling Initiative is to produce self-sustaining populations of Arctic grayling. We just really want to know where the right place is for these fish to go.
Arctic grayling were once common in the northern part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, but in the late 1800s and early 1900s, their numbers collapsed. And by 1936, Arctic grayling had vanished from the state. They disappeared for three main reasons.
The first and probably the most significant is the environmental degradation that happened due to the logging practices of the day. All that virgin white pine timber that was in the northern Lower Peninsula, they would cut right up to the edges of the streams, roll them down the streams, and even gouge the streams out as they floated the logs down the river.
Even decades later, the damage done is still evident.
We'll come across big logs like this in the rivers and streams pretty regularly. The habitat destruction associated with timber harvest was a really big thing in Michigan in the late 1800s. It was a major part of why grayling got wiped out in Michigan.
The grayling were also easy to catch, and they were harvested in large numbers and sold in urban markets.
And then the third reason was competition with and predation by introduced species. And that's brook trout, rainbow trout, and brown trout, with brown trout far and away being the most significant of those three.
Arctic grayling have been successfully reintroduced to some rivers in Montana, so there's hope for this effort in Michigan. Tony Beck is the fish culture manager at the Michigan DNR's Marquette State Fish Hatchery.
The broodstock we obtain were from the state of Alaska. We're using a process that we learned that the state of Montana was using when that successful reintroduction, so we're going to pattern our model off of what they were able to successfully do.
It's a years-long process. Grayling eggs must be brought in from Alaska and reared in isolation for 18 months before they are taken to the Marquette hatchery. There, they're reared to maturity, and the mature fish are then spawned to get a new batch of fertilized eggs.
And then within 13 days, we then package up those eggs and transfer those out to the tribal partners. Packaging it up was kind of exciting but nerve-wracking at the same time. We hadn't done this before. We were confident we could do it. We were excited to do it, but there's a lot on the line. Our tribal partners have also been great to work with. They've done a lot of research on the receiving streams, trying to find the best candidates of streams that we can put them in.
One tribal partner in this restoration project is the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians. Frank Beaver is the band's head of natural resources.
This is the release ceremony where we have given kind of thanks to the partners who have come together and to formalize this event for releasing the eggs, since this is the first egg release in the state of Michigan for Arctic grayling. This has been a very exciting day. I can feel there's a lot of optimism in the air today. We've had a lot of questions to get us from where we first started the program to if we would even make it to today, to putting these eggs out in the wild, out in these river systems, and today we're going to do it, and that's amazing. This is a way for us to reconnect with a native species and with the habitats in the systems that support that species. So for us, this is a relationship that we have with our fish, with our species, and with those habitats. So for me, this is reestablishing a relationship that's been broken and then lost.
The Little River Band of Ottawa Indians will place their eggs directly into in-stream incubators in 3 different rivers, where they will hatch in the waters of the rivers themselves.
So the incubators that we use, we have a couple different sizes, but for the most part, they use the same basic principle. A black tub, it has a stainless steel egg tray that sits above a manifold. Water goes in through the bottom of the incubator, it disperses evenly up through the egg tray, and then just spills out to outlet pipes at the top of the incubator. Freshly laid Arctic grayling eggs are really small. They're only about 3 millimeters or so. But once those eggs are fertilized, they develop relatively quickly. It's not too long before you can actually see the little fish within the egg. They're usually pretty clear, so you can actually see the tiny Arctic grayling within the egg and see its eyes develop. And they move around quite a bit, which is always cool to see. And then once the eggs hatch, the fry will slowly make their way out of the incubator just using the natural flow that goes through it.
If all goes well, the grayling will imprint on the water of each river, meaning they will see that river as home and return there to spawn in the future.
Arctic grayling are important to the ecosystem in Michigan because they were always a very prolific fish species. I mean, before we had a lot of brook trout in the lower peninsula of Michigan, it would have been Arctic grayling. So it would have been kind of like our cold water predatory fish species, that's supposed to be here.
The Little River Band isn't the only tribal partner working to restore Arctic grayling. The Grand Traverse Bay Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians also received grayling eggs, and today they're releasing their fish into the Boardman-Ottaway River. But their eggs didn't mature in an in-stream incubator like the Little River Band's. Dan Mays is the lead fish and wildlife biologist for the Grand Traverse Band.
We've decided to do things a little bit differently at GTB. We're raising them in a streamside hatchery. We're using water from the stream that was selected, imprinting those fish on that water, raising them to fingerling stage, and stocking them out at 3 to 4 inches in length. We decided to do that because we feel that's the best chance of survival, getting them to size. We're doing what we think's best for the fish.
145.
Prior to releasing the fish, we implant a small tag. It's called a passive integrated transponder in their abdomen, and that tag, we can track where they go. What we want to see is these fish reproducing on their own. We don't want to keep stocking these fish. We're looking for a self-sustaining population. Today we released just over 500 5-inch fish, and we're very hopeful that this is successful. It's an iconic species to Michigan, to the tribe.
If I was going to name one, that would be the one I would have named, right there.
And it's very important to me personally as well.
The Arctic grayling has been missing from our area for quite some years, and so it's exciting that we're getting a chance to bring this relative back to our home community, back to its home environment, and hopefully can be here for a good long while.
Later, the Little River Band's biologists return, hoping to find a thriving population of young Arctic grayling. But they don't catch any.
But we're a couple trips in. We've been doing it for a few months now and haven't caught one. I'm still hopeful that we will. I know they're out here somewhere. It's just looking for a needle in a haystack. We got to be kind of in the right place at the right time.
For the team from the Grand Traverse Bay Band, there's encouraging data. Downstream of the stocking site, their antenna detected the tracking tags implanted in the grayling 186 times, suggesting about 40% of the stocked fish avoided predators and migrated downstream, mostly at night to avoid being eaten. The work hasn't ended. More fish will be released in the years to come, and there's hope that the grayling will be back for good.
Raising these fish 3-4 inches, seeing them, seeing that dorsal fin, seeing how energetic these fish are, that gives me hope.
There's so much research that that led up to the incubators being put in the water and the eggs going in this last May. I'm really optimistic that all the work that everyone's done through the years has got us started off on the right foot.